Welcome to the Tom's River Fire Academy short video on the basics of the Incident Action Plan. The Incident Action Plan is a process by which the incident commander sets goals and objectives for a given incident. Once the incident commander establishes objectives, he assigns the objective to an available resource. That resource then uses a tactic to accomplish the objective. The Incident Action Plan can be written or unwritten. Long-term incidents that will last for multiple operational periods and hazmat incidents require a written incident action plan. Fast-moving, dynamic incidents, such as structural fires, do not require a written plan. However, it is good practice for the incident commander to use some type of tactical worksheet to document the operation to track the units. Many times the incident commander will use some type of a erasable whiteboard or some type of tactical board using a grease pencil or a erasable marker. The problem with this is the documentation is gone once the board is erased. If the incident commander writes the information down on some type of tactical worksheet or a log, that material can be kept for a long period of time and used for training, or it can be used in depositions, as I used a few times for some type of fire investigations. Here is an example of a tactical worksheet. This was at a fire in downtown Toms River. You can see the date was April 1989. By writing everything down on a tactical worksheet, the incident commander can check off the benchmarks. He can see what units are on the scene. He can determine what objectives were assigned to what resources. He can write down, he can draw in a map of the incident. And again, this tactical worksheet can be saved and can be reproduced later on for, again, either training or if it's required for some type of legal issue somewhere down the road for the fire investigation. When we talk about tactical worksheets and we talk about incident action plans, um, Chief Edward McAniff of FDNY wrote a book called Strategic Concepts in Firefighting, 1974. In his book, he makes the statement, strategic or limiting factors are factors or conditions of such strategic importance that the success of the entire operation depends on either overcoming their effects or keeping within the limits set by such factors. So for the incident commander, in order to develop an incident action plan, he has to know what these factors are, what these limiting factors are. And just an example of limiting factors or strategic factors that need to be overcome at an incident such as a structure fire. Water supply. Does the area have a good water supply? Does it require a long stretch to get to a good water supply? Is the area riddled with small mains? Are there any hydrants at all? What do you need? Some type of tanker task force, right? Exposure protection. Is the fire of such intensity that he may need to deploy the first hand lines to protect exposures and write the original fire building off? These are some strategic factors that go into the incident action planning. Or is it a rescue situation? Is rescue needed? Is immediate search of the building required because of possibility of victims unaccounted for or trapped? Ventilation. Do we need roof ventilation? Do we need vertical ventilation? Again, it's resource driven. And also resources, time of day. Are the resources that the incident commander needs on the way? Have they been dispatched? Is it a time of day issue where you're going to have to call in multiple alarms? So that would be resources. And again, strategic factors, if you look at your size up component of Cole was wealth, 13 factors of size up, those can all be described as strategic or limiting factors for your incident action plan. Action levels. The incident commander works at their strategic level. Company officers, division officers work at the tactical level. And firefighters and fire companies work at the task level. Let's take a look at these different levels. The incident commander works at their strategic level. This incident commander needs to define the problem. Okay, go back to those fireground factors. What is the biggest problem that you face right now as you're looking at the fireground? Then you have to base your incident action plan around that. You need to establish an operating mode. Is it going to be an offensive mode? Is it going to be a defensive mode? And everyone on the fireground or everyone responding to the fire needs to know what the operating mode is, so we're all on the same page. The IC then needs to establish goals and objectives for the incident. One acronym that we use to develop objectives is known as the SMART acronym. And SMART stands for specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and timely. So if you're developing an objective, your objective should meet those 5 specifics. Is it specific? Is it measurable? When the objective is done, um, can you measure it? Is it something that you can say, okay, yes, that is completed? Is it action oriented? Are you telling the resource, are you giving them an order to actually do something? Is it realistic? To tell 2 people to stretch a 2.5-inch line to the second floor is not a realistic objective. So your objective has to be realistic. And is it timely? Is it time sensitive? Can it be done in a time specific manner, or can it be done in a time frame which you need to outline in your incident action plan? The company officers work at the tactical level, and many times the company officer is either going to be assigned as a division or a sector, or he's going to be in charge of his company, his engine company, his ladder company. The company officers basically get the objectives done by using tactics. And a tactic is basically an operational procedure that is used to accomplish an objective. Some examples might be the act of selecting and stretching the proper size hose. Okay, that's a tactic in order to achieve an objective. The act of selecting and placing the correct size ladder to the proper location. That's a tactic that is going to accomplish the objective of ventilation. Again, tactics accomplish that strategy. Firefighters and fire companies work at the task level. The task is the physical action putting the tactic into place. So that engine company is going to be physically stretching the attack line to the fire floor. So that's a task. And tasks are normally supervised by the company officer. In our case, in a volunteer service, if there's no company officer, there should be a senior firefighter on the engine. He would be considered the acting company officer. So it would be his job to make sure that the tactic and the task is completed. In order for the incident commander to implement the incident action plan, the incident commander should match the objectives to available resources. This should be done in a priority order, understanding the strategic. Here's an example of an incident action plan based on a structural fire. So the incident commander is going to develop objectives. And in this case, his first objective, his first priority is conduct an offensive attack and extinguish the fire that's on the second floor. His resource is Engine Company 1, so he's going to assign that objective to Engine Company 1. His next priority is establish a water supply and then back up the first crew with a second hand line. So his next resource that's available is Engine 3, so he's going to assign that objective to Engine 3. And lastly, primary search and horizontal ventilation of the second floor is part of his incident action plan. That's his objective, and he has squad 1 to do that. At the tactical level or the task level, the resource, in this case Engine Company 1, is going to implement the objective, and the company commander, the officer on Engine Company 1, might use a tactic and tell his crew to do something uh, like park the engine past the structure, leave room for the truck company, stretch the 200-foot inch 3-quarter hand line through the front door, upstairs to the fire rooms, at the rear rooms. So that would be a tactic. Engine Company 3, the company officer, his tactic is going to be drop a 5-inch supply line from a hydrant at the end of the block and lay into Engine 1. Then have his crew stretch a backup line from Engine 1 to the second floor. Squad Company 1, his tactic is going to be the officer and the irons go to the second floor and start a primary search. The driver and the outside vent man raise a 24-foot extension ladder to the rear windows and start ventilation. So those are all examples of the objective being given to the resource and then the resource using a tactic to complete the objective. And again, the incident action plans need to be constantly reviewed and updated as the incident progresses. If the plan is not working, do not be afraid to change the plan. All right, thanks for listening.